I love gardening. One of the best things you could add to your garden is compost. And the best compost is homemade compost. Not only are you keeping everything on site, but you're gonna have real fresh, nutrient-dense compost available for your garden. Fresh compost can add micronutrients and essential microorganisms. There's lots of living microorganisms inside compost. It doesn't just happen magically. It takes little organisms, microorganisms like fungus and bacteria and nematodes and all sorts of things to break down the compost. We are fostering microbial life when we're composting. In my backyard around our house, I'm composting 4 different ways. Each are special and unique in their own right, so I'm going to show you a little bit about each of them.
I'm going to start off with my hot compost. Hot compost is one of the most efficient ways you can compost if you have the space and the volume of material. I built this out of cedar planks to be 2 cubic yards, so it's 3 feet by 3 feet by 6 feet. My intention was to build a second middle one. I have all the materials right here, is to build a divider. But right now, all I've been doing, because of the volume I have, is when I add new material, and I have a bunch of new material right here. When I add this kind of stuff, plus dry like yard clippings and cardboard box, torn up Amazon boxes, I'm gonna flip it. So I'm gonna add layers. As I turn it over here, I'm gonna add a little bit more stuff and layers. I'm gonna add the old compost over, and then I'll have a new pile over here. So basically once a week, I collect all our kitchen scraps. I'll collect like the toilet paper tubes from the week. And then once a week, I just add to it. I'm gonna flop, go to one side from the other. You can see it's really hot. Oh, right now it's not really hot. It's only about 100, but that's still in the active zone. I've had up until 150 degree compost. All right, let me show you how I do this. All right, so weekly maintenance on our hot compost is pretty easy. Remove my thermometer. Now, I didn't even say it's called hot compost because of those microorganisms I was talking about. When microorganisms are really happy when they're in the right temperature and they have food and oxygen, because this is an aerobic situation. When those bacteria are really happy, they're going to reproduce really fast. When they're reproducing, they make a lot of heat. That heat helps break down the compost further, but it also sterilizes plant pathogens. It kills off bad nematodes. It kills off plant parasites. So you want that heat. You need that heat from the microbial life reproducing and getting hot. So some fresh food, toilet paper rolls, and I'm even use this. This is just getting rained on. So you need a good mix of brown carbon-rich material to green nitrogen-rich material. And I just kind of eyeball it. But the general rule of thumb for keeping your ratios correct is if your pile is stinky, that means it's too wet and you need to add more brown material. So add cardboard boxes or dry leaves or hay or shredded newspaper. If your pile is not getting hot enough, then you need to add more green material. You need to add more yard waste or grass clippings or chicken manure. Just harvested some cabbage yesterday, so these are the big outside leaves from the cabbage. Not just microorganisms, it's macroorganisms too. Lots of earthworms. Look at that, in one spill, or one turn, bunch of earthworms. Oh yeah, look at all those worms. Really happy, healthy compost. Cool. I like to cover it. Oh, put my thermometer back in there.
You want some moisture. Water is necessary for all life on Earth, including these microorganisms. But you don't want it to be sopping wet either. So tarp is helpful. Alright, that's my hot compost pile. It's probably my biggest, bulkiest pile that turns out lots of really good compost fast. But I have other methods of composting that I want to show you about now. Alright, cold compost as opposed to hot compost. This is a passive system, so you set it up and you forget it. Where my hot compost bin, I have to do weekly maintenance. This one, I filled it up to the top 18 months ago and I haven't touched it since then. It's compacted a lot, so I know I probably have finished compost under there. But this is a slow process. It's more fungal dominated than bacterial dominated because of the temperature. But it's really easy. If you have the space and if you have the material to recycle, then go for it. It's another way of getting the job done. The third way I'm composting on site is with my compost tumbler. I love this thing. It's really, really useful. It has a lot of benefits. So let me break down a few of those. It's really contained, so you have much less of a pest problem where my dog or rats or raccoons or anything can easily get into the hot compost. Even though I have the mesh on it and chicken wire, they'll find a way. This one has lids. It's elevated, much harder for critters to get into this one. This one in particular has a mechanical handle. It'll make spinning really, really easy. Oops, as long as my door's closed. This is pretty full right now, so if I were to spin it with these handles, like traditional ones, it's pretty heavy, so it gets pretty hard to spin. This one, because of the mechanical handle, much easier. It's a little bit expensive because of that, but top of the line, really amazing. Other things I like about this one is the volume. It's pretty big for compost tumblers. This one's 64 gallons divided down the middle, so there's two 32-gallon compartments. I have two different ones. The benefit of having two different compartments is that one could be filled and finish composting while you're still adding to the other. Let me show you exactly what I mean. So a little bit hard to see on video, but this side is older and you can see it's much darker. You can't really see what's in there anymore. This side is a lot lighter. You can see straw, you can see food scraps, you can see all sorts of stuff. This one I was adding into up until just recently. This one I haven't added anything into it for, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks or something like that. This one will be finished compost in just a few more weeks. Well, this one's going to take a little bit longer. Harvesting compost from this is pretty easy. I just open one of these, spin it to the bottom with a bucket underneath there. I actually have a harvesting video on how to use this. But if I didn't need the bulk of my hot compost, because of all the gardening I'm doing, this would be all I need. Like if I was just composting kitchen scraps just for fun, this would be all I needed. All right, let's talk about the fourth way we compost. Who does all the work in this one? Who's the little squirmy guys in here?
The worms.
The worms. Should we look for some worms?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, right on top!
I see.
Hey worms. These are red wigglers, so these are not normal earthworms. These are special just for compost. Oh, look how many worms there are. We have a healthy worm bin right now.
Oh, look!
Look how many. Whoa, there's so many right there.
The first one that I found!
Good job. You're good at finding worms. So the worms don't actually eat the rotting food. It's still those same microorganisms. That's a big one. Look how many there are. There's dozens and hundreds. There's probably thousands in here. So the bacteria and the fungus do the actual decomposition, but then these worms come through and eat those bacteria, nematodes, and fungus. So they can actually sterilize the soil. They still kill plant pathogens and plant parasites, because when they pass through the worm's gut squeezes all those juices out of them. But these cannot sterilize seeds. So the hot compost is the only way you can sterilize weed seeds. But these guys are pretty cool too. You want to put one in your hand?
Yeah.
That's okay. Be gentle. It's a living thing. Show the camera. Get it close to the camera. Cool. So this one's kind of a slow process. You can see there's tiers in here, and you can also see this one's almost full. So what we do is we're gonna come take another tier, and it has all these holes in it so that the worms can pass right through. Scoot your hand, baby girl. Oh yeah, good idea, put it back. Will you help me put this one on top? And now we're gonna take some moistened newspaper, shredded moistened newspaper. You could also use moistened cocoa core. Now let's layer this on the bottom. Will you help me scatter this on the bottom? And from in here too. A whole bunch of it, like all of it.
Like this much?
All of it, yeah, all of it goes in here. Some of it's gonna be on the bottom, and some of it will be bearing our food scraps. Good job, baby girl, thank you. But now what we need to, make sure it sits right on flat. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna scoot this off to one side. Will you help me scoot it off to one side like that? There you go. And now our food scraps, and we save the best scraps for the worms because they have a harder time breaking down big things. So in here we have coffee grounds from mommy, and berries and lettuce. Well, the worms are gonna love it. So now let's cover it back up with some of this. Will you help me?
Yeah.
Get some of the wet paper towel and cover it up. And now as the worms eat, so this bottom one is probably ready to be harvested because I haven't added food to that in a long time. This is the one where they're still currently working. So this is gonna be filled with thousands of worms. And they'll slowly migrate to this one. And by the time they're done here, all the good food will be done. So it'll be ready to use compost. And worms will move up because there's nothing left to eat in here. Yeah, what do you wanna say? You wanna hold the camera? I've been composting with worms in the same bin since college for 15 years or something now. So I love this way. I probably have videos of me harvesting worm castings from this too. The finished compost is called castings. Let me borrow this real fast. This is actually a big bucket. Oh no, there's a worm right here. I wonder if they're on the inside of our lid. Oh, they were. Look at all the worms right there. Those poor little babies. It's okay, they'll be good on this. So this is our finished compost, our finished worm castings.
But can I touch one of these?
These guys, yeah, actually, can you help me pick these up and put them in there? And then they'll find their way down to the bottom.
Hey.
Okay, bye worms, thank you. Thanks for your help, Georgie.
What is in flavor?
All right, there you go. That's how I'm composting at home. It's worth it, it's fun, you're saving money, you're adding the best stuff to your garden, and then your garden's gonna reward you for it. It'll pay you back. Have fun, get it into the garden and do some composting.